I'm trying to decide if the painting above my bed is actually crooked or not. Because in real life it doesn't look crooked, but the minute I sit down and decide to film, it just looks so wonky, and I feel like someone's going to mention it in the comments. So if that's the case, let me know. I'm not very good at that kind of stuff. Alright, welcome back. I'm so sorry for the absence last week. I got hit real hard with the flu, and I decided I don't think I've really had the flu. I've had the stomach flu before, but I genuinely don't remember having, like, the flu. Okay, so for this week, I wanted to do something that's very important to me. I've talked with some authors in person and on Instagram. They always bring up writing groups and how important it is to their process, and it's actually very important to my process as well. So we're going to talk about that for a little bit today. Let's get started. That is in my lungs for good. Not coming out. The concept of a writing group is just, it's something that you don't necessarily learn in classes at the university. I mean, it does end up coming up, but it's not the same when you're working on like a short story or an essay versus trusting certain people with a novel that's basically a huge extension of you. It's a lot of pages and it's a continual story. So I think finding a writing group that is willing to be with you chapter for chapter and really invest in your character's story, that's the kind of writing group you want, not necessarily a workshop that you get in class. And this is something that you can do outside of school. A lot of the times you will meet your critique partners in like a creative writing class. My current writing group are actually, we're all alumni from my high school. Believe it or not, all my theater friends. So 2 of them I met in theater and the other one was kind of a mutual friend. January, February, March. So we have met for 8 months straight now. They have read my entire book, which is of around 400 pages. So it does take a lot of time and dedication, but it's also turned into the best part of the week for me. A big thing that helps a lot with writing groups is setting a specific time during the week to meet every week. This is really great for kind of building your schedule around your writing group so it does happen every week. And having this very strict deadline also helps with your writing. You in your head know, oh, okay, I have to have a certain amount of pages done by Monday of next week. And it kind of gets your butt into gear to keep writing, because sometimes, you know, we like to procrastinate. It's not a secret to anybody. It's a personal deadline, then you're more inclined to stay on top of it and to keep writing. Moving on from deadlines, so I highly recommend finding people who read the genre that you are writing in. I once had a critique partner who didn't read a ton of YA, but I still had him read my story, and I found that there were a lot of things that didn't sit super well with him. It was fine with my current critique partners because they realize that that's just kind of the way YA is. Like, if you don't have a complete sentence, that's fine. It's kind of a stylistic choice, but I feel like that's mainly reserved for YA, or at least you don't get as much crap for it. There's a good chance that they'll be more interested in your story if it's something that they would read outside of writing group. People that read your genre help a lot. So my writing group is strictly female right now. A lot of my friends are a part of writing groups that do encompass both male and female members, and so that is really helpful when you have someone who is the opposite gender reading a story that may be in a point of view of a gender that you are not. So if you're writing a guy, you want to get a guy to read it. And then also I highly recommend getting a member of the LGBTQ plus community, kind of as a sensitivity reader, because, you know, I'm straight, white, and privileged. You know, I don't really have a very diverse mindset, especially growing up in Utah. While diversity is something that I definitely am striving for, I know it is something I could definitely improve on. So this has all been just forming the group, let alone actually being in the group. And while I don't have all of the answers to writing groups, something that has been very helpful for my writing group is, it's not necessarily writing group, but it's a support group. Constructive criticism is key in a writing group. You're here to receive feedback, both positive and negative, but ultimately your goal in a writing group is to become a better writer. I highly recommend... Hold on, my roommate's right there. So here's a little secret. I've been waiting here for half an hour, waiting for my roommate to go to work. And I don't even know if she's going to work. But the minute someone comes around and sees me talking to a camera, I freeze a lot. And that's how I know I'll never be a vlogger, because I'll never be able to vlog in public. I could just text her and see if she has work. I could just ask her to stay in her room. But here I am, being socially anxious, just because I'm filming a video. And she's gone. Okay, there are good and bad ways to give feedback. Every bit of positive feedback and every bit of negative feedback should all be in the best interest of the writer that you are giving the feedback to. A lot of people have the habit of leaving out things that they thought were good, because when you're looking at a piece and you're giving constructive feedback, you're just going to give stuff that they need to work on because that's going to help them in the end. But keep in mind that this can damage a person's psyche pretty harshly, because if this is something that they've never shared with anybody before and they decided to share it with you, first of all, you should feel privileged that someone wants you to read their book. I may or may not have hurt some people's feelings because I refused to let them read my books. So the first time I had Jarrett read through something, it was actually the very first thing that I'd written of this book, and it was to get into a class to help me finish writing the book. Typical Jarrett fashion, he's very editorial, very straight up, this is what's wrong with it. And so he made me cry, because that was the first time I'd ever had anyone looked at this piece, first time I'd ever had him look at anything I'd written. So that was a tough time, and that resulted in him never reading my stuff like ever again as far as I was concerned. As much as the constructive feedback is wanted and needed, throw in a little praise every now and then, because let me tell you something, writers love getting their egos stroked. The minute you say, ooh, I really liked this, and I liked this character, they will just light up, because there's so much self-doubt when you're a writer. I'm a perfectionist, so honestly I don't think anything will ever be up to par to what I need it to be. But when you have someone who tells you this is great, it helps a lot, and it helps you continue writing and gets you really excited about writing. It isn't so much to cushion the harsh feedback you give, it's to really keep the writer going. So I think adding a little bit of positivity can go a long way. However, I do think the most important part of a writing group is the critique you get. So I have something I learned through one of the members of my writing group. 3 notes of something that needs to be worked on, and 3 praises. So yes, I highly recommend positive and negative. Sometimes chapters just aren't the best, but I find it very important to find at least one positive thing about that chapter. If you just say this whole thing sucks, I don't ever want to look at it ever again, that's gonna hurt. And they'll probably resent you just a little bit for it, just saying. Someone says this didn't appear, or this didn't happen, don't get defensive. If someone didn't get it, A, make sure it's a trustworthy reader and they didn't just skim it, because that could be a problem. Like, hey, this didn't make sense. Well, like, yeah, you didn't read the book. Of course it's not going to make sense. But if you have someone who's thorough and who is a genuinely good writing partner and they're confused on something, there's probably a reason why. So don't get too defensive. Of course, there are some people who are like, you can't say a word until people are done critiquing you. Like, no, that's not the case. You can defend yourself, but if you go overboard, no one's going to want to be your writing partner. You know, there's a reason why they were confused. There's a reason why they gave you this critique in the first place. Take it, utilize it, and find a way to make it better. Yeah, I have been in writing workshops where people just pound you with information and you're not allowed to just say anything, which made me learn that, like, okay, clearly something isn't coming across. I might think it is, it's all in here, but that's where you lose translation, is going from inside your head onto the paper. Some things just don't come across the way you think they do. Finally, it's nice to have a group of friends, and these are probably the closest people you will have in your life. Your writing group peers and critique partners are there with you until the very end. Trust me, they're going to be the first person to congratulate you on becoming published. My writing group, we were very invested in each other's works. Like for today, just this morning, I had one of my writing friends. She created it's like a Google survey, but it was like a March Madness bracket. And she put all of our characters in there, and there's 4 of us. So we have all of these characters in brackets, and she kind of put them up against each other. Only the writing group would be able to participate because we are so familiar with each other's characters. We've been in this for 8 months. We know each other's characters fairly well, and we can have fun with it. And it's so nice to have someone to talk things through with. You can talk about character development and plot holes and it's just nice to have someone who understands this book almost as much as you do. Your writing group friends will probably be the closest people that you are going to have in your life, and in this journey they're here to support you. It's not just a writing group, it's a support group. It's so helpful to have other people really look at your story and they get so invested. My characters, they just feel so loved because of my writing group. And you can't beat that. You really can't. So that is my rant on writing groups. There's so much more I could probably talk about that I might put in a later video. So let me know if there are things you want to know. Maybe even mention some stuff that your writing group does that we should implement into our writing group. I think that is everything. Thank you so much for listening to me rant for a super long time. Hopefully I'll be healthy again next week. Enjoy your weekends, and I will see you all later. Okay, bye everybody.